Nathaniel, thanks for joining me, and I appreciate it's a little bit later in England than it is here in the US.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit.
Tell me a little bit about your background. You're a strength and conditioning coach. You've been doing that for several years. How did you get there briefly, and kind of where are you now? Where's your journey?
Okay. So, yeah, as you said, I'm an S&C coach. I started off my professional career in Angola with a few pro teams out there. So immediately after I finished my undergraduate stuff, moved back to Angola to carry on my career there, and was with a few teams there. And then eventually, the 2018-2019 season, I had the opportunity to apply for a team out here in the UK in the BBL, which were the London City Royals.
BBL, you have to clarify.
Yeah, so that's the British Basketball League. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I also have I had the pleasure of being a part of a coaching staff with a national team. So I started with the under-19s national team, that's basketball for Angola, and then I went on to the men's team.
So being a coach in Angola, that's when I first kind of interacted with you and had conversations with you.
Right.
A lot of people would see this as being glamorous, right? Strength and conditioning coach, international team, professional team. Then you go to England, you're working with a professional team. You're living the life, my friend, right?
Yeah. That's what people see. That's the glamour that you said that people see.
So I'm assuming, therefore, the way you said that, it's not that. So tell us a little bit about kind of some of the challenges that you've had to go through.
Sure. Well, I think any career that a person has in sports is very different from just working in another field. There are a lot of challenges, very long hours. Sometimes, the effort that you're putting into it doesn't necessarily match what you get back. It's very demanding both mentally and physically because you have to be there with your athletes. You're up on your feet a lot of the time. A lot of people they see it as, oh well, you're getting to coach, you're getting to be there with athletes, playing a game. It's all fun, but I think for me, the 2 hours that you spend maybe being in a weight room or the court with an athlete or a team of athletes, you could compare that to someone's 9 to 5 in terms of just how demanding it is, like in terms of your focus, intensity, just physical, mental demands. There's definitely a lot of work that goes into it.
And is there a kind of challenge of being a coach who one could argue is dispensable? You're not the head coach, and so yeah, okay, I understand the head coach, it's all eyes on you, but you're kind of the heartbeat of the team, whereas
Right.
your staff. And so when it comes to budget cuts, when it comes to who can we let go and things, is that something that has concerned you?
No, for sure. Job security is very much an issue when it comes to the other supporting roles on the team. Unless you're a head coach or an actual athlete, those are two roles which are, the commodity, you're a very hot commodity. But everyone else, you're sometimes seen as a little bit more dispensable. When there's a coaching staff change, so a new head coach can come in and completely revamp the whole program. Maybe he has people that he trusts or been working with for years, and now he's coming into this new situation. He wants to have people around him that he knows he can rely on, and you just kind of have to understand that. So yeah, there's definitely job security it's been crazy.
So when we look at job security, I want to also talk a little bit, and I'm kind of poking the bear a little bit, trying to get some
Sure.
details out of you, because a lot of people will be looking at strength and conditioning, especially in the US, and see it as a really big market and a lot of opportunity there. And so I would sit there and say, well, is a career in strength and conditioning, at least in your experience, financially beneficial? Do you make a lot of money?
hmm I don't want to discourage anyone. I don't want to discourage anyone from seeking a career in strength conditioning. If that's a passion that you have, you really see yourself doing that, then by all means, like get involved. Like I would love to see more and more coaches come up, male, female. Um, I would just say that you shouldn't you shouldn't go into it thinking that, oh, I'm just gonna start working with pro athletes and I'm just gonna get money coming in streams. You have to work really hard. A lot of times, coaches, they do a lot, outside of their SNC jobs. Some of them, they may be working at 2 or 3 schools or in 2 or 3 sites.
Hmm.
They do a lot of freelance work as well, a lot of one-on-one work. You just have to make sure that you're able to just keep yourself afloat. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. As long as you can do that, then I think, yeah, it should be fine for you to want to have a career in SNC. And it depends on where you work as well. Obviously there are all types of different leagues all over the world, and some of them pay better than others. If you're in a
Sure.
situation where you're like working in the NBA, I think you're gonna be okay. But if you're in a situation where a league is not as is not as known, or it doesn't receive as much finance, then yeah, you want to be looking at having multiple streams of income for sure.
So when you talk about multiple streams of income, what kind of things do you do to improve your image, get more access to working with different groups?
Hmm.
How do you build your profile so that you're able to generate revenue outside of a strength and conditioning job with a pro team, like you said, may not pay the bills as uh,
Hmm.
some other teams would?
Okay. So a lot of coaches, they can go down the route of working with schools or academies. That's definitely one that's very popular around here. So you'll see a coach roll in at practice. Oh, sorry, I just got in from working with some kids in the morning, and now I'm here. And then they got to shoot off again to now an under 18 academy or something like this. Um, it's just it's just about what's accessible to you, and just make sure it's realistic. You can manage all of those expectations, because you don't want to just say yes to everything, and it eventually it will all come crashing down on you. It's very physical work. It's very demanding. You have to program a lot of things. You may not do a lot while you're actually on site, but when you go home, you have to write down programs for a variety of athletes. It's a lot of planning involved. You have to communicate with your head coach and some of the other coaching staff to put plans together for the week or the month. So you just want to keep it, realistic to what you're able to do.
Mhm. So one of the questions I have that is a continual almost battle between two areas is in finding jobs and getting hired, qualifications versus networking.
Right.
Both are important. Tell me a little bit about your experiences, because you've coached in different countries. You've studied in
Yeah.
the U.S. and England. You've worked in Angola. You've worked in England.
Hmm.
How does that work? What kind of strategies would you suggest to kind of build up your ability to network? Clearly,
Hmm.
you've got to have the qualifications that are required to
Sure.
be successful. But
Hmm.
what have you done that's really helped?
Uh, I will say this is one piece of advice a very good friend of mine, who actually I worked with him on the national team. He's our head scout. He said this to me one time. He said, uh, make sure you get your qualifications down, and then your network can do the work for you, right? So there's really no use in being able to meet a whole bunch of people and be able to communicate with them,
Hmm.
and then in the end, like, they can't help you because you don't have what you need to kind of get your foot in the door,
Hmm.
right? So just making sure that you're aware of everything that you need to be able to apply comfortably for a job, or even to be able to match with the rest of the people applying for that same position, and then using your network in that way. I think some strategies are, online. There are a lot of things now that are available to you. You just got to make sure you do your homework, research on the organization, research on the qualification that they're offering, making sure that it meets the demands of an employer. Um, you can part-time study as well. That's also like something that a lot of coaches do now. Me personally, it's just about I'm in the UK right now. The
Mm.
qualification that a lot of employers are going to be asking for is the UKSCA. The UKSES qualification, sorry. So for me, it's just been studying, just saving up money, and booking a date for when I'll be able to take the exam. It's just every day looking at my books, looking at the material that's provided, and hopefully being ready for when the date comes. So it's just working and then studying, working and studying. It's just those two things, just being able to balance between the two.
So if I can change track just a little bit and talk about kind of what a day in your life would be if you talked about being a coach of a pro basketball team in England.
Hmm.
What was your day like? Describe your typical day. I mean, obviously game day is very different, but in your normal weekday, what would
Hmm.
that look like for you? Just take us through from start to finish.
Sure. So normal weekday, just prepare myself. Usually practices will be around midday-ish or maybe an hour earlier. So as soon as I wake up, I'm in go mode already. So just making sure I got all my equipment down, ready, all my programs are done. Just get myself down to practice. Usually try to be there anywhere from an hour to 30 minutes before. So I'm a type of person, I like to see everybody walking in. I don't like to have people there already and I'm walking in, you're
Yeah.
looking at me. I'd
Yeah.
rather it be the other way around. So yeah, just getting there, setting whatever it is I need set up, making sure I'm there beforehand. I just like to script everything beforehand, so when it gets to the actual point I'm doing it, I've already rehearsed it. And just running my athletes through whatever it is, whether it's a weight room session or some on the court type of stuff. So speed, agility, something like that.
So how
And
long
then
would your practices be, your sessions?
so practices, they could be depending on the type of day we're having. So if it's a day after a game and we have to be in, then usually we're going to be doing a lot of recovery work. So we could be there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour tops. And then a normal day would be like 2 hours of practice.
Okay.
So after that, I would generally maybe grab something to eat. Maybe the coach wants me to stay behind and talk to him about some things, or maybe the physio, whoever, or just extra work that I have to do with a specific athlete. And then I would immediately be shooting off to probably like an academy where I'll also be working. So I get there, run a session at the academy, talk to the coaching staff there. It's a school setting, so you have to make sure you're on time. So you can't afford to be late. So everything has to be on the clock.
Mhm.
And after that, I'll be probably heading home, get in, just kind of review the day, how things went, what worked, what didn't work,
What time
and
do
just
you normally get home?
normally get home. Man, I want to say around 7 p.m. Around
So
7 p.m.
it's a
I'll
long
be
day.
It's a long day. It's legwork that you have to do as a coach. It unfortunately we're not at a point where like most of us, we can just be doing this one job and then we just go home and then we have the rest of the day and we can kind of plan everything out. We have to do a lot of juggling. So that's where I am right now at this stage still. But hopefully, a couple years down the line, it'll get a bit smoother.
Mhm. So you obviously had the opportunity to go to the World Championships, the
Yeah.
basketball World Championships with Angola. Tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about what that experience was like for you.
It was like being a kid and just seeing all of these people that you look up to, whether it's a coach or a particular player. It's just an amazing atmosphere to be involved in. There's so many high level coaches and players, and just seeing them work and seeing how they compose themselves, seeing how they handle different situations and pressure. It was amazing. Just being able to observe them in their element. That was pretty cool. And for us as well, being a competitor, like I'm not an athlete anymore, but even as a coach, you have to have a certain level of competitiveness to what you do
Sure.
because you're competing with the best in the world.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing for my confidence. Just being there and realizing, wow, not a lot of people get to be in this position. and I'm a pretty young coach in terms of the S&C field. I'm 31 now, and my head coach is like, "Oh, Nate, man, you're a pup." You know? So I'm pretty young, and I'm getting to experience this where a lot of people would like just love to be here in my position. So just amazing. Yeah, in one word, amazing.
So, talk a little bit about kind of your plan of where you see yourself over the next few years. You've obviously got a wealth of experience already. You just said you're a pup, or at least your coach did. So,
Yeah.
you know, you've got training in the U.S. You've worked with a professional basketball team in Angola. You've worked with the international team for Angola. You've worked with the professional team in London, in the
Mhm.
UK. Kind of what's your dream? Where do you want to see yourself one day?
Well, I guess my personal dream is to eventually launch just like a business with my partner. We've been just talking for a long time, and we finally decided to like this is the time to kind of put everything together.
Mhm.
So it's a sports performance business, and it's an educational platform as well. So just putting out content for just athletes and coaches from a variety of different sports on all things to do with sports performance. So the physical training aspect, nutrition, recovery, all of those things, and eventually one day getting to a point where we have a facility where we work out of, and we can provide sports performance services. So S&C, sports therapy, all of those type of things under one roof. I still am very interested in being involved with professional teams. It's it's an environment that I like to be around. I love being around professional athletes because I just admire their drive, and I feed off of that energy myself. So I still very much want to be involved in that. And you know, I'll be frankly, I'll be honest. I want to be in the NBA. I want to be a professional coach in the NBA. God willing. So that's what I'm aiming for. If I get there, great. But it's not the thing that's going to define me. I just whatever I do, I want to be successful in it and help people.
What kind of last question for me? What kind of advice would you have for people who are interested in strength and conditioning? And also, I mean, the reason that I'm here talking to you is coaching in general. What advice do you have based on the coaches that you've worked with, the coaches that you've seen, and your own profession to people who are maybe starting out in the process and are trying to get the experiences that you've had?
Right. My advice would be obviously study, go to school, go to a good school with a good S&C program. There's a personal plug for you.
Shameless
When
plug.
Bobby Caller, right?
Uh,
Yeah, so just making sure you go to a good program, getting yourself a mentor. Honestly, this is one of the biggest things, and I found out about it a little later on in my career. But a mentor can just it it just gives you like the biggest cheat code because they've seen it, they've done it, and they're able to tell you, okay, this is what you need to invest some of your attention into. All of that stuff there you can ignore. That this is the main things that you're going to need to be aware of. So a mentor, and just making sure you get experience. There's never a point where you shouldn't be coaching if you're able to.
Right, it's that idea of just getting better every day, right?
Yeah. So just getting your hands dirty, I guess, for lack of better terms. If you have the ability to coach, if whoever it is that you're working under, you learn in a textbook, it's all well and good. But when you get out there on the field, the actual practice of it is a lot more complex. No, it gets to a point where it gets simple, but it's simple complexity. That's how I like to put it. And after that, it comes the art as well. So being able to know all of these and then being able to know when to apply it, that's the actual art of it. And you only get that with experience. So wherever you are, just try to coach as much as possible too.
Uh, I said last question. If somebody wants to kind of keep in touch with you or have questions for you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm on a whole bunch of social media, so you can find me on Instagram at Coach David Lucas. You can also find me on Twitter on the same handle. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Nataniel Lucas. You can find me on there. But yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, I can leave that. I can either say or I can write that down somewhere. I'm not sure what you want me to do with that, but yeah,
They'll
I'm
find
always
you. Nate, you're everywhere. Yeah, they'll find you.
yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere. There's it's hard to miss me, man. But yeah,
Well,
anytime.
Nate, thanks so much for joining us, and appreciate you just spending some time sharing your experiences with FSU Coach.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. Tim is a great guy. Keep listening to the podcast. FSU is a great school. All that.
Thanks.